The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, the House of Representatives just a few minutes ago voted to disapprove the $350 billion in additional funds for the TARP bailout. But because of the way the original bill was passed, that won't do a thing to stop it. That money is going to be given to the administration and it's going to be spent. We don't know where the $700 billion is going. We know where part of it's going, but we certainly don't know where most of it's going. That means the American taxpayers have given $700 billion to the Congress of the United States, and we have ceded the authority to spend that money to the administration without any real oversight. We don't know where that money is being spent. And as a result, we have abdicated our responsibility to oversee the power of the purse and make sure we're spending the money of the taxpayers wisely. In addition to that, not knowing where we're going to spend it, where they're spending that $700 billion, next week we're going to have another $825 billion bill that's going to come to this Congress, and we're not going to know what's in that bill until the markup is finished tomorrow, which means that we'll probably get the information on it Saturday, and Monday will be the first day that Congress will really take a hard look at it. So we'll have the afternoon of Monday and Tuesday, and then vote on Wednesday on an $825 billion supplemental stimulus package. That means in the last 3 or 4 weeks, we will have spent almost $1.5 trillion of taxpayers' money, and we don't know where it's going. We're ceding that authority to the executive branch, and it's an abdication of our responsibility for the most part. We know where some of it's going, but not all of it, not most of it. And it really, really bothers me. When we come down here and speak, Mr. Speaker, we know from time to time there's an awful lot of young people that watch us in the gallery, and there's a lot of young people and parents that are watching from at home. And the thing that bothers me is we're spending this money like it's going out of style, without any accountability, and we're spending it in such large numbers that it has to have a long-term, terribly inflationary impact on the economy of the United States of America. People in this country don't really know what hyperinflation is. But after World War II, Germany, people would get money and they'd have to take a wheelbarrow full of money to the store to buy bread or meat or something to live on, and if they didn't do it that day, the money would devalue that day and it would be worth less the next day. Now, I don't think that's going to happen here in the United States, but what will happen, in my opinion, is we'll have very strong inflation, like we had back in the 70s under Jimmy Carter when he was president. We had inflation that ran 14%. We had unemployment that was 10, 11, 12%. And because of that, the economy was really foundering, and so they brought in Mr. Volcker, who's once again in the administration. I'll be happy to yield my colleague.
Saying is accurate. I have here a $100 billion bill. It is a Zimbabwe bill, which was printed by the Federal Reserve in Zimbabwe in 2008, in June or July of 2008. So what the gentleman is saying, this $100 billion will not even buy a loaf of bread. So the gentleman makes a very good point. $100
billion piece of currency won't buy a loaf of bread. That's what happens when you have hyperinflation. It destroys the economy of a country. And we're spending this money so rapidly and without any accountability that it really scares me. And these young people who watch us and who hear us talk, they're the ones who are going to have to deal with this in the long run. Because if the currency devalues, that means the cost of everything is going to go up. And they're going to have to pay for it. Now, what happened back in the 70s was it got so bad that they brought Mr. Volcker in, who's in this administration now, and he raised interest rates to 21.5%. Well, boy, that put the hammer on the economy. It slowed down inflation all right, but it increased the problems with unemployment, and it hurt the economy so desperately that Mr. Carter was saying, my gosh, we had to do less. We had to do with less. We had to handle our lives in a much more simple fashion because we couldn't afford to live well again. And then Ronald Reagan came in and said the way to stimulate the economy is to cut taxes, to give the American people more money, more of their money back and let them spend it, to cut the taxes on business so there was more money for investment. And because of that, we came out of that recession, and we had about 8 or 9 years of very positive economic growth. In fact, it was one of the longest periods of economic growth in the history of this country. But now we're spending money more rapidly than we did in the past. It's unbelievable the way they're going to have to print money to deal with this problem. And so I'm very concerned, and I'm going to be down here talking about this a lot, that we have to do something to stop the spending, to control the spending, to be more accountable. Because if we don't, there will be hyperinflation. There'll be a rubber band effect on the economy, because once it gets so high, they're going to have to raise interest rates so high that you can't buy anything on time. And then the economy will go into a nosedive. And it just will not work. It's going to be very horrible for this economy long term if we continue down the path we're on. There needs to be accountability. And what we've done in the last couple of months